everybody, welcome to EduTap. You can find a lot of success stories on YouTube, but this one is going to be different because today the topper is not just going to share how to prepare for this exam, but she will also share what other exams have commonality of syllabus and how you can prepare for multiple exams which increase your chances of selection. But to even start that, let's just first invite our guest, Miss Snehal Rawat on EduTap platform. Hi Snehal, welcome to EduTap and heartiest congratulations on your achievement.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right. So we will talk a lot about, yeah, right, about what other exams you were preparing for and how you prepared for this. But if we have to like start from the start, right, you are from IT background, right? You have done BTech in IT, and how then this motivation, or you can say, or interest, it originated in insurance sector that you thought of preparing for it.
Yes, ma'am. It started with the interest in regulatory bodies. So it started years back after my college. I wanted to be part of an apex financial institution of the country because they are at the core of policy making and they drive the economic growth. So that is how it started. So I then started preparing for multiple exams, all regulatory body exams. So that is how the journey began.
Right. And do you think it went for your favor that you went for multiple exams, right? Because many people or even mentors, they recommend that you should restrict to only one exam. That is only how you're going to clear it. But what your experience says about it?
Ma'am, I targeted exams which had some commonality in their syllabus. So that helped me because the preparation of one exam somehow benefited the preparation of the other exam. Plus, my target was that some overlapping of syllabus should be there. So that
Right.
is how I selected the examinations.
Right. So could you give me some examples? Like what other exams did you go for?
Ma'am, I appeared for RBI, for SEBI, for IFSCA, IRDI, of course, and NHB too. So these were few of the exams that I was targeting.
Right. And you also left your job also for this, right? So, how did you take this decision? But because it's actually a very tough decision to take. Once you start earning, then it becomes very difficult if you leave it, right? Even thinking about it can take you a time a lot. So, how did you managed it? And what made you like sure that no, okay, I will get the selection?
Ma'am, the only thing I thought of was I'm not working in a regulatory body and I want that. So that was in my mind throughout my journey, throughout my job period also. So that is what has motivated me. And since I was not able to crack one of those, so I thought that let's give 100% of my time in preparation this time. And one last time I will attempt this and I will try to crack these.
Right, right. To have that, I think to have that motivation only that, yeah, I want this or nothing. That is what actually makes you to be the best person to be there, and that's what led you also. All right, so now let's come to the main part, talking about your strategies for this exam, and also like how can the same syllabus can help you with multiple exam, or how similar or different the pattern is, right? So we will start off with phase 1 of IRDAI Grade A examination, where in phase 1 we have quants, reasoning, English, and then general awareness, right? So we will club quant, reasoning, English once at one time, and general awareness separately. Okay. So you have given RBI, as you have said that you have given RBI, you have given SEBI, you have given IFSCA, NHB, right? So if you have to compare the level of quants, reasoning, and English with which of the other exams would you compare? Or if they are not at the same level, the level of this year's cycle, was it more or less, means difficult or lesser than the other exams that you have prepared?
Okay. Ma'am, I think that comparing from one year's examination is not the correct strategy because if we see last year's cutoff, it was around 80 to 90, but this year's cutoff, it went up to 109. So this year's paper was a bit easier. It was on a easier note, but we cannot say that what will happen in the next year.
Yeah.
But still, for comparing purpose, I can say that the level of IRDI's pre is similar to SEBI's, IFSCA's quant reasoning maths. RBI's is a bit more difficult on a difficult side. So RBI's maths is like if you are able to solve 3 to 4 questions, 5 questions out of the total questions correctly, then you will clear the sectional cutoff. But
Right.
in IRDI's paper, I was able to attempt all the questions, the 40 questions which were there in quant. I was able to attempt all in that stipulated amount of time. So the yes paper is solvable. It is easy to moderate. We can say it is on moderate level.
Right. So you just said that you were able to solve 40 on 40 questions, right? So that is my next question. In quants, reasoning, English, general awareness, we have 40, 40, 40, 40 question, and overall time is 120 minutes, right? So in that time period, how were you able to do all the 40 questions of quants, right? And didn't you had that fear that I will maybe I will not be able to get the sectional cutoff of other exams, or like how did it happen?
Ma'am, there is a composite time of 90 minutes for these 4 sections, 40 questions. There is also a sectional cutoff, but there is no sectional timing. So I made use of that thing. So I my strategy was that in the first half hour, I'll do general awareness in the first 10 minutes, and then in the next 20-15 minutes, I'll complete my English. So that is what my strategy was. So in the first half hour, these 2 sections should be completed, and the next 1 hour I wanted to dedicate for quant and reasoning. So even in that, I had managed separately half hour for reasoning first, and then the next half hour for quants first. And I had decided that whatever amount of questions I'll be able to solve in the first half hour, I'll solve that, and then I'll move on to quants section. But luckily, I
Hmm.
was able to solve almost between 35 to 40 questions I was able to solve in the first half hour only. So the
Hmm.
transition was smooth between the sections.
Right. So, what made you do these many questions like so within a short time, I can say, yeah. So, did you do mock test, or it was like because you were preparing for other exams, so it was just the habit and that helped you in the exam?
Yes, ma'am, I can say that it was a combined strategy. I did not take any separate course for quant, reasoning, and English sections because I could solve them. So my main strategy was I gave lots and lots of mocks. I gave around 15 mocks, I think, and plus as I was giving other exams as well, so their mocks also somehow,
Hmm.
somewhere or other, it helped me.
Right, true, true. And talking about general awareness, like I want to ask for the aspirants that if they are preparing for other regulatory bodies, and this year, for example, they decide to go for IRDAI. Of course, we don't know that what the future holds and if they change the pattern or not. But as per till your cycle, what do you think that if anybody is preparing for RBI, IFSCA, SEBI, would they be able to do general awareness of this exam also? Or there is some additional efforts they would have to put in for GA of ADI?
Ma'am, talking about RBI's GK, it is a bit on a tougher note. It is a bit tougher, and IRDI's GK was not that tough compared if we are comparing to that examination. If one is preparing for other regulatory bodies examination, be it RBI, SEBI, so I can think that the same kind of strategy can be used for IRDIs as well. So
Hmm.
last, I saw that the questions were mainly from last 2 to 3 months, and they were diverse in nature, so it was not insurance specific, or it had some a few questions on insurance, a few from government
Hmm.
schemes, a few from
Hmm.
any important event or report, like if there is a BRICS summit happening, so some questions related to that. So there was
Yeah.
the nature of the question was diverse. There was a bit static portion also, like which of the following is not a function of RBI. So a general
All
awareness.
right. Hmm. Right. Okay. Uh, so for like general awareness, yeah, one more adding to that, I want to ask that, for example, you said about the schemes also come a little bit of insurance, a little bit of RBI and everything, right? So in RBI, I think a little bit more in depth the questions are asked. Like for example, the schemes will be asked. So schemes will be asked in two, three statements will be there, and from there the questions is framed. So does that was the pattern for this exam also, or it was like more of a straightforward question, like one liner? You just have to identify that one term from the option.
So, ma'am, most of the questions were one liner only. It was not very statement based. A few questions were statement based, but I think 80 to 90% were straightforward questions.
Right, right. So that was overall your strategy for the phase one, right? Now, if we talk about phase two, right? So there, initially I want to ask, like, did you started preparing for your phase two from the very start, like when you were preparing for phase one only, or you started your preparation for phase two once your phase one was done?
I started after my phase one because as I was giving multiple examinations and the dates were clashing, so it was not possible for me to start phase two preparation. But I want to point out one thing, that the syllabus of phase two was had some similarity with what I was already studying for other examinations, like the management portion, the ESI portion, plus English descriptive. So these had some commonality. So I can say that I had a base, but the actual preparation it began after phase one.
Acha. Right. Now, before moving to the strategy part, I really want to ask, right? Like you prepared for phase two, after phase one was done, right? Usually, an aspirant, they have this mindset. They first look at the syllabus and then they see and they think that, oh, I've not prepared it. So, what's the use of if I don't clear phase one, why to even sit for this examination, right? But you took that chance, right? Because phase two was different, but still you took that chance and it worked for you, right? So, what are your thoughts, or if you want to share your feelings with the aspirants who are skeptical or who leaves exam just because they are at that moment not prepared for it? Do you want to say something to them?
I would like to say that if your paper has gone well, like my phase one has gone well, I was hoping that I'll get a positive result. So without waiting for the result of phase one, I had already purchased a course for phase two and I started my preparation. So whatever happens, we'll see with that
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah,
So
so it's like having a short-term goal. The first aim
yes,
is just to clear phase one. Once you give phase one, you have an idea, right? Are you
yes.
in margin level, or are you going to clear it, or are you way far below the cutoff, right? So you have an idea.
Yes,
Then,
the analysis provided in YouTube from various
hmm,
platforms. So you get an idea that how the paper was and how your paper went. So according to that, one can prepare. And I don't think that one should leave the preparation and wait for the result, or if
true,
one is
true.
confident.
True, that's true. So it's a key takeaway for the aspirants. Don't think for the far. Just fill the exam form and prepare for phase one, and then see that should you prepare for phase two or not, right? ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा, एग्जाम नहीं clear होगा, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. But अच्छे से अच्छा क्या हो सकता है? You can clear the exam and you can sit here with us and discuss your journey, share your journey with us. All right. So now if we talk about, okay, so you have bought the course as you have said, right? So I think it has become easier for you to learn because you have all the content at what place at one place, and now the thing you have to do is learn and revise, right? But more of a thing that I want to ask, like for aspirants who maybe not want to go for a course, or maybe they would want they would buy course from some other institute or something like that, right? So I would focus more on what sort of questions were asked in exam, like for example, we have one subject, insurance and management, right? So like what is the difficulty level? Do they ask in-depth question, or are they like straightforward questions that are asked in the exam, or what's the your take?
See, in phase two, there are three papers, three
Hmm.
separate papers. It is a 3 hour, 1 hour for every paper, 100 marks paper. So it is a hybrid mode kind of exam where questions appear
Hmm.
on the screen and we have to write on pen and paper in a stipulated. They give us A4 size sheets and the space is provided. We cannot. Space is fixed. We cannot ask for extra pages or extra copies. So it is a fixed space. So that is how the exam is there. And then there is an English paper. The second subject is ESI, impacting insurance, and the third
Yeah.
is insurance and management. So there is a syllabus which is given along with the notification, and I'll say that stick to that syllabus. So whether you are purchasing any course or whether you are preparing on your own, it is possible both ways, but you have to stick to the syllabus. According to the syllabus, you can Google whatever terms you feel like you don't know them, or whatever preparation you need. You can take use of chat gpt platforms like chat gpt etc for self preparation, and that can be done. Make use of IRDAI's website, because every information related to these subjects, not completely, but up to much extent, it is provided in the website also. So
Right.
this is what I want to say.
Right. So when you look at the exam, so you think that if some person has like surface knowledge of all the topics that are mentioned, they would be able to attempt the question, or like a deeper knowledge is required if you want to clear the exam.
A basic understanding of the subjects plus current affairs related to that those subjects is required, because when we are writing answers,
Hmm.
if you are quoting figures from budget, from economic survey, from reports, any PIB news, any news related to insurance sector. For example, in the recent budget, FDI was increased to 100% for insurance sector. So how
Hmm.
that can impact something, things related to that, so that enhances your answer. So I would say that knowledge is required. Only basic, only superficial, with superficial knowledge, it is difficult to crack the paper.
Right, so that would be like a generic answer, which everybody
Yes,
might write. But to stand
yes,
your answer, like from rest of the aspirants' answer, there has to be some data facts that needs to be added
yes,
to enrich it.
yes.
Right. So abhi tak वैसे we have looked at we have done the comparison from other exams, and abhi tak तो there was this commonality that okay, these subjects are common and the sort of questions are asked, those are also common. But here now, from switching from descriptive typing mode to pen and paper mode, how difficult was it, and how tiring it can be, right, writing so much and practicing so much, right? So how did you prepare for this? How, first of all, what was the difference did you find in descriptive typing and writing, and how you prepared for it?
सो सी राइटिंग की हैबिट तो काफी छूट गई थी. सो
Mhm.
कंप्लीटिंग राइटिंग so much, the pattern is very lengthy, the pattern of the paper is very lengthy, that it is very time consuming, and there is no gap between the three papers. So the as soon as one paper ends, the timer ends on the system, and the next paper's timer start. So there is no gap in between, so it is very tiring and it needs a lot of practice. So what I did was I had given lots of mocks, whatever source, whatever preparation, whatever you are choosing,
Hmm.
whatever what to say,
Platform. Hmm.
platform you are choosing. So through that you can you give mocks. I'll say that you give mocks and make them check your copies, have get their feedback and what you can improve in at home while practicing. Also, always you make use of timer, that whether you are able to complete the questions within the stipulated time or not. So these were a few things that I kept in mind, and I gave a lot of mocks to practice with my answer writing. One more thing that I used while in examination was, my strategy was that when one paper ends, before that, before I and the other paper begins, before the in between this transition, I always used to take 2 minutes break. Like when the timer hit 2 minutes, 2 minutes are left
Hmm.
for this paper. My target that was that I'll complete my paper when there are 2 minutes left, at least, so
Hmm.
that the I can transition smoothly between the papers. So
True.
I'll not write till the end of the timer, because that becomes very hectic.
Right.
So that
True.
was it.
True, true, to have that switch in your head also. Okay, now I have other subject to
Yes,
now write upon. So
yes,
you gave your that break to yourself. That's also a very good strategy, right? Because till the last moment you would do, your mind would be in that state only, in that
yes.
subject or that topic only. So it might be then difficult to have the transition. So students, please note that. Okay. And coming to one more thing I want to ask from what you have just said. You started your preparation from scratch, I would say, for insurance part,
Yes.
right? Not for management, but yes, definitely insurance after phase one, right? And simultaneously, you have started for your descriptive writing practice also, right? So, how did you manage time? How did you divide it? Okay, this time I have to dedicate to learn static, and this much time or hours I have to dedicate to the writing practice.
So the real preparation, although I had taken the course and I had started preparing, but the real preparation began after the result of phase one. That motivation came,
Hmm.
and so between the result of phase one and the phase two examination, there was hardly 20. It was not even 1 month gap between those. So I had divided my time. So for English, I had not allotted any separate time, because I believe that I would be able to to write those answers.
Hmm.
Then there were two papers left. One was ESI impacting insurance, one was insurance and management. Again, in insurance and management part, the management portion, because it was similar to RBI's syllabus, so that also I had a base in that paper. So I
Hmm.
also put aside that paper also. And then coming back to insurance and ESI. So for these, I divided my time on a daily basis, that I'll stick to the syllabus. I'll do whatever, only what is mentioned in the syllabus, nothing more, nothing less, and few current affairs related to insurance, related to those topics. So that was my strategy. And before examination, my timetable was such that before 4 days of the examination, I would complete my syllabus, so that I reserve 4 days only for revision purpose.
Revision. Mm.
And about giving mock test, never waited to complete the whole syllabus and then I'll attempt the mock test. I was giving mock test from day one itself. Whether aa raha hai likhna nahi aa raha hai, it doesn't matter. I have to give the mock test. That was my strategy.
Right. So some aspirants, what they experience, that if they don't know the content, like you were completing the course simultaneously, right? So
Right.
if they don't know the content and they're not able to write, they usually get disheartened or their confidence it shake, right? So what was your mindset at that time? Could you please share, so that if aspirants face this problem, they can also at least try to have that mindset?
Uh, uh, if I was not able to answer, there were many instances when I didn't know the topic of the question, when I was not able to write the answers. So I simply skipped it. And then later, the main motive of mock tests is analyzing them. So
Mm.
later on, you analyze those, you learn what you have not written, and then after learning that what the topic is, you re-attempt the question. So whether you are able to do it in time or not, it doesn't matter. You just write, you learn and write. If you don't know it, you learn and write. So that is the strategy.
Right, but if sometime, like when you skip, so don't you feel like your attempts are getting wasted, right? Because in mock test usually you get a response, right? You if you initially you don't know answer, so they would give you a very generic response, right? So you never had that thinking in your mind that I might be wasting my mock test.
No, because see, a basic understanding everyone has about the question. So
Yeah.
some, it is not that you are going to leave the paper blank. You will write something, even if you don't know. When you sit and you attempt that question, something or the other comes to your mind, because you have appeared for prelims, you have read general awareness, so there is some basic
True.
understanding. So you can write. And if you should never have that feeling that my mock test will go to waste, it never goes to waste. So even if you are not attempting, the feedback you will be provided, they will tell you that you have missed so and so points, and in every attempt you will improve. So
True.
that is why it never goes to waste.
True, true, that's true. The thing that you've always done, right? कि अभी जो कर सकती हो best, just do
Oh,
that.
God.
Don't think कि दूर का क्या होने वाला है. That's really very good. I would say mindset, not just for the exam but for life as well, right? And now let's talk about one more. Like before moving ahead, and you've given a lot of insight. What can be done for paper two. I want to ask, like you were giving so many examinations, right? And then when this EDI was happening, right? So never you had a thought, because like it's very normal to for such thoughts to come, like what if I don't make it this time or this examination as well? I've left my job and I'm preparing. If this will not happen, then what will I do? So did you ever have those thoughts, and how did you manage those thoughts?
He'll say I'm a very positive person. So I don't want to think negative, that I will
Right.
not get selected. This thought, I'd never let it cross my mind, first thing. And plus, I was giving many examinations and I was experiencing many failures. So, for example, the day RBI's pre-result came, this year I had given two mains earlier, but this year I was not able to clear pre itself. So that hit very hard. But in on the same day, IFSC's pre-result also came, and I was able to clear it. So instead of focusing on RBI's failure, I decided to prepare for the mains of IFSCA. So I do not give much time in what will happen
Yeah.
if I don't clear. So I focus on what next opportunity I have, and let's focus on that. So
And
that
what you
I
can do about it.
yes,
Right,
exactly.
right. And one more thing I want to ask, like for insurance, like for management in RBI also, here also questions from static only are made, right? अब जैसे insurance में there are like some numericals also. So are they also asked in examination? And if you have attempted or prepared for it, what is the difficulty level?
Yes, in the third paper, that is insurance and management, case studies and numericals both were asked. So numericals were like it was similar to data interpretation, graphs and charts were provided, and you had to interpret the data. The difficulty level was very easy, I will say. It seems difficult because of the charts, because of the data, because there are six
Right.
figures, seven figures data is there. So it may seem difficult, but once you attempt the question, so people skip it just because how hard it seems to be, how hard it looks. But
Yeah.
if you read the question, it is simple mathematics. If you have simple quant knowledge, you can solve those questions. So even for data, whether it is data interpretation or whether it is case based question, so it is very solvable and very scoring. So that should
Right.
be attempted.
And I think it's also fear in the aspirant's mind, if especially if they're not from insurance background, that if it's a numerical, so it is going to be tough. So that again, if you first look at the question and try to read it, maybe you can solve it.
Yes, actually, the questions that were asked, it did not, they had the data was related to insurance terms like premiums, etc. But actually, no knowledge of insurance was required to solve those questions. So, with basic mathematics like division, multiplication,
Yeah.
percentage increase, change, so it required only those kind of basic mathematics. So, actually, the question were not on insurance, and people failed to understand it. So, if
Yeah.
you read the question, you'll get that it is not difficult.
Right. That's a easy score that you can have.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah. And was the calculator allowed for numericals?
No, no, no calculators are allowed.
Right. So, and was the calculation like difficult one with, as you are saying, that six figure sort of it was there, or it was like
Yes.
fine doable calculation?
Yes, because the figures were long, so that made the calculation a bit lengthier, but it could be
Hmm.
done with tricks, so it
Right, right,
was
true.
doable.
The tricks that are applied in quants exam,
Yes,
similar
correct.
quants reasoning, similar can be done over here. All right. So okay, so that was for phase two. And yeah, one last thing I want to ask here about, like, for this you have told about the what content that is there, and you've given some insight on writing, how to practice, and that you've given limited syllabus, right? I really want to ask that. In regulatory bodies exams, the other that you have given, so there's a very restrictive approach you can have. You can just write point wise, nothing much can be done, point wise or paragraph wise, whatever suits
Correct.
you, right? But here, as you have liberty to write the answer however you want, right? So sort of approach you followed? Because apart from the two that I've discussed, there is also one more, that is to make flow charts and everything, right? So which one you think best suited for you, and of course which has given you the result?
So yes, we had the liberty because it was pen and paper based. So wherever I felt that the answer demanded, and uh, it was as per my requirement, was the question what the question demanded. So I used charts, I used flow diagrams wherever it was required, I felt like. And other than that, I used point wise structure to structure my answer, so with a proper introduction, because the questions, the answers of ESI especially, it was 24 marks questions, single questions with 300 word limit, so it was long essay based answers. So I
Right.
made use of introduction, then point wise, then sub points, then conclusion, then highlighting, underlining basically the important words, the keywords which I felt like they were important. So these were few of the strategies that I used while
Right.
answering.
Right. So you said like point, sub point. So did you use a different color pen, or it's like just one pen?
I used a single pen. See, there are two reasons. First of all, it is clearly mentioned in the instruction that if you use a different ink, then you have to get the invigilator's signature there to approve it. So you cannot change the color of the ink, pen ink mid examination. So that was the one reason. And second reason was there is no time to change pens. So
True.
it is, I think that it is a waste of time. If even if there was an option, I would not have changed pens. So that is why I did not change pens. So
Right.
I highlighted using underline, using capital letters. That things you can do.
Right. So were you happy after your phase two exam, or you waited for the result to have the clarity?
I was happy after the exam because I was able to complete paper. So I had attempted all the questions, and except a few, all the questions I wrote, I felt that it was quality answers. So I was hopeful, but of course I waited for the result.
Right. And once like the result was out, definitely new enthusiasm must have entered your body. And then what was your next strategy for this exam, for the interview preparation?
So again, after result, we had very less amount of time, very less days, 10, 15 days hardly, in which we have to travel also for interview. So my strategy was again giving lots of mock interviews, because that they give the strategy that how you should appear for the interview, how you
Yeah.
should talk, how you should present your answers. So mock interviews are very important. So the interview is a five-member board panel, five-member panel who takes your interview. So questions are there from your DAF, your detailed application form that you fill.
Hmm.
Then there are current affairs related to insurance. Then if budget and economic survey were recently released, so they were in news. So questions related to financial sector, which is mentioned in the budget. So these were some important topics. And of course, IRDI's annual report, IRDI's website. So these things were some important things that I covered for the interview.
Right, right. And how did your actual interview go? Like, if you can remember some of the questions that were asked to you, or some things like, you thought what very good went in your interview, or something that was tricky things that were asked to you, like something like that.
I remember that my interview was not a grilling one, so it was a good interview. I was able to answer most of the questions. So 60 to 70% questions were related to my background. Like I have a financial experience, so questions were related to DICGC, limit of DICGC, then priority sector lending, then how a commercial bank's different from regional rural banks. Uh, Financial inclusion, SHGs, NRLMs, so government schemes basically,
Yeah.
then insurance related government schemes. So
Hmm.
these things, questions were related to these. Then there was also questions related to my hometown, my home state. So those things also were there. Then current affairs where something like BRICS currency was in news. So one or two questions
Yeah.
related to that. Then while answering, I tried to mention that I had read IRDI's annual report. I In one or two answers I quoted that. So from there also they asked two three questions, uh, something which was mentioned in the
Yeah.
report. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that is how the interview went.
Right, right. If you want to channelize your interview, like you can do so, wherever you want, right? For example, like you did, you had a good knowledge of the annual report, so you deliberately added these points in the interview so that they can ask more, and definitely that would work for you, when you know you can answer and that too rightly. Right. So after interview, what was it like? After interview till the time the result came. So, as an aspirant, you speculate how was my answer like? I should have said this instead of that, right? And all whatever the mistakes you haven't even committed, that comes in your mind, right? So
Yes.
how did that went, and finally when the result was out, how was your reaction that finally the thing you wanted, you have strived it for so many years, finally you have achieved it?
So actually, yes, howsoever hard you try, after coming out of the interview room, we always think that I should have said
Mm.
this in a better way. I could have presented it in a better way. So that happened. But the thing was that I had a next my after 4 or 5 days, I had a next interview scheduled for another organization. So I did not have much time because I had to prepare for that. I had to travel to a different city for that interview as well. So I started focusing on that interview. And the funny thing is, the day when I gave this organization's interview, I gave it in the morning, and at night, IRDI's result came. So that
Right.
was how. So I did not have much time to speculate.
Yeah, so that went, like God also said, don't not worry, don't worry much, and that is why He just get you engaged with other institute
Correct.
interview, and finally
Yes.
at the end He gave you that relaxation that don't worry if your selection happens or not, you have this now.
Yes.
Right.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Right. So finally relieved, you get the regulatory body.
Correct. Yes. I'm very much relieved and very happy.
Right. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing this journey with all the aspirants who are seeking to be not just in a single or particular organization but regulatory body as a whole. Your interview will definitely help such aspirants, right, who would want to enter regulatory body, no matter if it's RBI, NABAD, SEBI, IFSCA, or AIRDAI, right? We wish you all the very best for your future. And at the end, like, if from your experience of this competitive examination journey, like, if you feel like saying something to the aspirants, you can do so.
Um, for preparation, I want to say something. There's a tip that whenever you are appearing for interview of any organization, try to find out if you can find out the chairman's recent interview in newspapers, etc., or what the organization as a whole has to say in recent news, you can find out what the organization is interested in. So that can enhance your interview experience. So that is a
Right.
tip that I will like to say. And other than that, practice a lot, give lots of mocks for every phase. So that is my uh, tips.
Right, right. It's very, very true. Knowing what organization is seeking nowadays, what's their take
Correct.
on any news, that
Yes.
would help you to enrich your answer. For example, imagine your answer is contradicting to what organization wants in the future. So that can have a slight negative impact also, right? Not necessarily whole, but slight negative impact, right? So be aware of all those things and prepare as much as you can. And if we can get the gist of today's interview, have short term goals. Don't look far off कि अगर selection इतनी seat में नहीं हुआ, don't look for that. Short term, clear phase one, then prepare phase two, and then think of the interview, and then clear the exam. Thank you so much, Snehal, for joining us and sharing your views. And we from EduTap family, we want to wish you again all the very, very best for your future.
Thank you so much, ma'am.